Only mode.
Hi everyone, this is Jim Busch. I'm a senior analyst here at briefing.com. Thanks for listening. Today, we're going to provide new users with an overview of briefing.com's proprietary idea generation features. We have quite a range of them. Today I'll be focusing on emerging growth stocks, liquid momentum, value leaders, yield leaders, and the next big thing. And I'll go through each one in turn, and I'll basically give you an overview of what they are, where you can find them, and a few tips on how to use them. So starting off with emerging growth, the target audience is investors who are interested in small to mid-cap growth stories. This system combines fundamental analysis and quantitative screens to uncover small, fast-growing companies that have the potential to become market leaders. So essentially, it has a weekly ranking system that we publish and update every week, as well as intermittent spot analysis and company reports, and basically coverage of companies on the rankings that are making either interesting technical moves, or they have earnings or a piece of news that's worth commenting on. As to where to find it, you can go to the top navigation menu and then select Investing and Trading, and then Emerging Growth Stocks. You can also find any of the emerging growth content. You can search for it or set up alerts using the GROWX ticker. And I'll just give you a brief view of what I just described. So most people have the live in-play page as their default page. If you want to access the emerging growth content, you would select at the top menu the Investing and Trading menu right here, and then the very first one is Emerging Growth Stocks. It turns out the first one that comes up is a longer piece of analysis on one of the companies that just reported earnings. As you can see, the analyst here provides a bit of detail about the report and its implications for this company. I'd like to show you first, though, the most recent rankings. And this is what it looks like. It's published every Monday morning, as I'll explain in a moment. And first of all, we go through the new additions to the rankings. Our analysts write up descriptions of each new addition, what the company does, the catalysts that are driving the stock, that sort of thing. We also give brief descriptions for the deletions for the week. We give a calendar of upcoming events so you can track them a little bit more easily. And then here at the bottom are the emerging growth rankings. This is sort of the heart of the system. And like I said, this is updated every week and gives you a top 25 list of the top growth stocks in the market according to our proprietary criteria. And as you can see, we give descriptions for the top 25, and in terms of just how the system works, we also provide rankings all the way down to 100. If you'd like to learn more, my apologies, if you'd like to learn more about the emerging growth system, in the additional resources box, you can see right here there's a link to the user's guide. There's also a link to a number of webinars, which I'll cover in a moment, that'll give you a lot more color on how the system works, as well as some performance tables and a link to the archive as well. So, in terms of the schedule for emerging growth, it's updated every Monday. The rankings are updated every Monday, rather. Usually about midday, around sort of lunchtime. Reports on component companies, as well as intraday spot analysis and technical commentary, are posted intermittently throughout the week. Could be pre-market, could be intraday. A lot of it runs, well, actually all of it runs through the live in-play page under the GROWX ticker, so you'll see it scroll by there. But also the reports are posted to that column area that I showed you before under that menu. Tips on how to use emerging growth. I can tell you what I personally do. I focus on the new additions every Monday. Read the descriptions for those. If any of those strike me as particularly interesting, I'll use that as the starting point for my own fundamental research. And from there, it's a great way to learn just new small growth stories. Just keep in mind for newer users, these are small to mid-cap growth ideas. They tend to be very volatile. So take some time to get a feel for how they trade before investing in them. And I'd like to reiterate here that emerging growth is not meant to be a timing system. It's meant to be an idea generation system. So everyone has their own risk tolerance. Everyone has their own style. So use your own buy and sell rules if you're investing in these stocks. And as I mentioned before, I've done a number of webinars on emerging growth and how to use it. And I would encourage you, if this is a feature that interests you, to take some time and listen to any of those webinars to get a much better feel for how the system works. So we'll move on to liquid momentum here. Liquid momentum, the target audience are technical swing traders. And this combines a proprietary focus list of the top 50 swing trading stocks with hand-picked technical setups. And you can find this on the Investing and Trading menu and then select Liquid Momentum. You can also do a ticker search or generate an alert using the LQDXX ticker. And I'll show you again. So if we go back to the live in play, which is where most people start, investing and trading, liquid momentum. So here's what the most recent one looks like. So typically the liquid momentum column starts off with some notes from the lead analyst, just describing sort of what he's seeing in the market and among the liquid momentum components. And then you'll see a series of hand-picked charts where he provides commentary or trading setups among the liquid momentum components. And towards the bottom is the rankings table itself. This is published every week. It's typically published Friday afternoon, every now and then, first thing Monday morning. But this, as you can see, this contains a list of 50 of the top swing trading stocks in the market as we define them. And it's just a great system for kind of narrowing the market down to just the best trading stocks out there. So, as I said, it's published every Friday afternoon or Monday morning. The chart setups are posted several times per week. Those aren't on a set schedule. The intraday technical commentary is intermittent as well. All of this can be found under the LQDXX ticker. A few tips on how to use it. First of all, the three key attributes for liquid momentum components are volatility, which we measure using an ATR divided by price ratio, relative strength, and a high level of liquidity. We think that these are the three components that make up the best swing trading stocks. I would encourage users to use the focus list as your weekly swing trading tear sheet. And what I mean by that is that one of the most difficult things in the market is keeping your universe down to a manageable size. This is particularly true for technical traders. Any given day, any given week, there's a different group moving. There's an overload of headlines coming across. It's very easy to start chasing anything that's moving on a given day. And what the liquid momentum focus list does is it narrows down your universe to just 50 stocks that have the best swing trading characteristics. So it's very useful in that sense. And you can just paste them right into your trading software, your quote sheet. Makes it very easy to kind of track setups. And when it comes to promising technical setups, our lead analyst publishes those throughout the week, but also be on the lookout for your own. Everyone has a different style and favorite set of technical setups that they use. Moving along to value leaders. This is another quantitative system. This is the target audience is value investors who want to avoid value traps. And value traps can be defined as an inexpensive stock that just keeps getting cheaper. So it's one of those names that the multiples always look attractive, but the stock just keeps going lower and lower and lower. Doesn't matter how cheap it is right then, it's probably going to get cheaper. So with the value leaders, it's a proprietary ranking system that uses multiple valuation ratios. So it's not just PE, it's not just price to sales. It uses a composite valuation metric. And it also requires above average relative strength. And that's what helps you avoid the value traps. So there has to be at least a minimum level of accumulation going on in the stocks that appear on the rankings. Where to find it? Investing and trading, and this one appears on the stock ideas page. Stock ideas, as the name sort of implies, a lot of different things are posted there, but I'll briefly show you what okay, this is liquid momentum. Let me go back. So investing and trading, stock ideas is the third one down, and actually value leaders is the most recent one that was posted there. So this is a fairly straightforward system. You see your additions and deletions here, and you have the rankings table right here. So it's the top 50 value stocks in the market. And you can see we break down all the different ratios and numbers here for each one. And like I said, it's pretty straightforward. You can copy and paste, like the others, you can copy and paste these tickers into your quote software, and it becomes very easy to track in that sense. So the Value Leaders is published every Wednesday morning. Reports on component companies or the intraday analysis is done intermittently. These are always posted under the value ticker, which makes it very easy to search for or generate alerts with that ticker. And in terms of how to use it, like Emerging Growth, pay particular attention to the new additions each Wednesday. The rankings will tell you which stocks are cheap, but do your own due diligence on them before investing. That really goes for any quantitative system. And just to reiterate, the rankings are not meant to be a timing system. So additions are not meant to be buy signals, and deletions are not meant to be sell signals. It's simply meant to generate ideas. Yield leaders is sort of the cousin of value leaders. The target audience for yield leaders are investors who are looking for a combination of dividend income and the capital appreciation that's inherent in active, large buyback programs. So what makes yield leaders different from your traditional dividend yield screen is that we use shareholder yield, which combines dividend yield with share buyback yield. And if you're not familiar with the buyback yield, that essentially is the number of shares that have been repurchased over the past 12 months, and it's expressed as a percentage of shares outstanding. So it's quite different from other yield screens that you may come across. Again, this is a proprietary quantitative ranking system that produces a weekly list of the top 50 high yield stocks. Similar to value leaders, this also requires above average relative strength and is really for the same reason, so that it avoids any kind of value trap. You can find it in the same place, actually, investing and trading, stock ideas, and you can search for it under the yield ticker. And I'll show you where right now we're at the stock ideas page. And yield leaders is actually the prior one here in the archive. And as you can see, it looks very similar. We have the additions and deletions here, and we have the rankings table here, and it's just a top 50 list, usually using our own criteria, and sorted by shareholder yield. Provides all the data so that you know actually what all of these companies, what the data looks like for each one. And it's a pretty straightforward system. So this, in terms of the schedule, the yield leaders rankings are published every Friday morning. Reports and spot analysis are published intermittently. Everything is published under the yield ticker. In terms of how to use it, it's similar to value leaders. Pay particular attention to the new additions each Friday. Do your own due diligence. The rankings are not meant to be a timing system. And one sort of note that's particular to the yield leaders is that since yield data changes so infrequently, maybe just once a quarter, the most common reason for additions and deletions is just fluctuations in relative strength. So that's a common question that we get for the yield leaders table because the yield data changes infrequently. So it's a similar approach to the value leaders system. So moving on finally to the next big thing. This is our IPO analysis feature. So the target audience is really anyone who's interested in new issues, whether they're upcoming IPOs or spin-offs. It's a weekly report that provides fundamental analysis of upcoming IPOs. So it's different from the others in that the other 4 systems were quantitative systems, that they're ranking systems that are based upon a quantitative algorithm, whereas the next big thing is just a straight ahead fundamental analysis and fundamental grading system. And you can find it on the investing and trading menu under the next big thing, and you can search for this content or generate alerts using the IPOXX ticker. And I'll give you just a brief look at what it looks like there. So investing and trading, the next big thing. And here's the most recent week ahead column. And so this is published every Friday. And this gives you fundamental previews of upcoming IPOs. So we publish it Friday, and it covers the IPOs that are due to start trading the following week. And as you can see here, there weren't any big names in this particular week ahead. But as you can see here, we provide plenty of fundamental context for these upcoming IPOs, what they do, what the catalysts are, what their valuation looks like, that sort of thing. We give them a fundamental grade here that our analysts determine based on their analysis of the company. And it's fairly comprehensive, as you can see. So again, this is a little different from the other systems which revolve around quantitative screens. This one is purely fundamental analysis. So in terms of the schedule, as I mentioned, the IPO previews in the week ahead column are published every Friday afternoon, usually right before the close, to give people some time to read it over the weekend if they choose to. Reports and spot analysis on recent IPOs are published intermittently. So if a company goes public, obviously we've already written the preview for them, but if they go public and we still think there's something interesting there or worth writing about, we'll also cover recent IPOs as well. And those are that spot analysis either runs through the live in-play page under the IPOXX ticker, or it's published as a column. Either way, you can always search for it using the IPOXX ticker. In terms of how to use the next big thing, I think it's fairly straightforward, but there's sort of a key point that I would like to make that's particular to IPOs. Our previews and fundamental grades are based solely on a snapshot of the fundamentals as contained in the prospectus and in the roadshow. So we arrive at our fundamental opinion of the company based on that information, but how you think an IPO will actually trade out of the gate is a completely different form of analysis. That's basically a supply-demand analysis, sort of what's hot in the market, what's not hot, how well or poorly the underwriters priced that IPO. It's a very different form of analysis than just the fundamental analysis. We'll often comment and provide an opinion on how we think something might trade out of the gate, but it's very, very different from just your fundamental analysis of the company. So what I would suggest is for people who read The Next Big Thing regularly, learn to compartmentalize your fundamental analysis of the company and your analysis of the supply and demand dynamics. And just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, it might make it simpler. Take the Facebook IPO. Facebook, when you looked at the prospectus and watched the roadshow, the fundamentals were great. I mean, the growth rates were phenomenal for such a large company. It was truly sort of one of those kind of once every 5 years, or maybe even once every 10 years, you get a company like this that goes public. So the fundamentals were very impressive. Now, as everyone knows, the supply-demand dynamics of that deal turned out to be way off. It was priced a little too aggressively. Maybe too many shares were issued. Whatever you think the reason is, despite the great fundamentals behind the company, the stock did very poorly once it began trading. So you often see a disconnect like this. You may get a quality company that goes public, but maybe it's just not the right time in the market, or their group isn't in favor, and it does poorly out of the gate. You also have plenty of instances where you have a low-quality IPO that maybe that group just happens to be hot, and even a low-quality IPO will have a really phenomenal open. So two very different forms of analysis that is key to sort of making the most out of the next big thing. And that does it for our presentation today. I hope this gave you a good overview of our idea generation services. And if you have any questions or feedback, you can always send an email to sales@briefing.com, and I'm sure that either they can answer your question or they can forward it along to someone who can. So thank you, and have a great day.